Welcome to How to Run Profitable Retreats podcast, the podcast that guides you not to only host retreats that thrive financially, but also transform people's lives. I'm your host, Leni Cavazos, and each week I bring you the best strategies and personal insights to help you create retreat experiences that transform lives, both your clients and your own. In our journey together, we'll dive into the secrets behind successful retreats, from crafting a unique atmosphere to mastering the logistics that ensure profitability. Whether you're tuning in for inspiring interviews with leading retreat experts or seeking actionable advice in our solo episodes, this podcast is your go-to resource for turning your retreat visions into reality. Don't miss out on any of our episodes and subscribe now. For more tools and a free guide on creating your own six-figure retreat business, visit theretreatplanner.com. Now let's get started and make your retreat dreams come true. Hello, welcome everyone to another episode of How to Run Profitable Retreats. I am so excited to have Dawn DelVecchio. Dawn DelVecchio, see, is it Italian?
Yes.
Yes, here with me today, and we're going to be having a conversation, of course, about retreats and how they can transform. And she's going to share a little bit about like her purpose and why she's doing retreats to integrate Gaia into your life. And really, she has walked the path of a priestess in devotion to the divine feminine. And I think we all need to connect with our divine feminine, right? And it's all about awakening with humanity. And she's committed to spiritual and practical service in the world through retreats, online courses, deep dive soul astrology, and some free offerings. So don't miss that with Dawn. Yeah. And Dawn is the host of highly successful Return of the Priestess Annual Summit, right? So is a lineage bearer of the Mother Spirit Priestess line and the author of the Amazon #1 bestselling book for women in business, Spirit, Mind, and Money. So Dawn is dedicated to her role as a priestess and ascension guide, serving women and men who choose to hold the light and of love in these times. Dawn, thank you so much for being here today.
Leni, thank you so much for having me. I love this topic and I'm super excited to dive in.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about like why retreats?
Yeah. Well, my story begins a long time ago, way before the internet. So I began my journey of sacred feminine awakening, working with women and eventually facilitating experiences for women in live contexts. So it was only much later that I started doing online stuff. So by the time I was really developing my business for teaching courses online and that kind of thing, it was a dream to me to have a retreat, especially in beautiful places like where I get to have them now. It felt out of reach at the time, so it took me a bit to kind of build my community enough to be able to do that. But I knew that firsthand from so many years of being in physical circle, ceremonial space, sharing circles, celebration, playing around in the swimming pool, whatever it was, dancing, a lot of dancing at my retreats, that there was great transformation, healing, and reweaving the web of sisterhood trust. All happened much more effectively in a physical space. So that's why I knew that retreats were going to have to be eventually a part of my offerings. And thankfully that has unfolded beautifully for me.
Oh, I love this, Dawn. And I think like for anyone who's listening to this episode today, it's so important to always remember that the in-person transformation will never trump like it actually no, that might not be the right word, but like online will never trump in person. Yes. That's what I was like looking forward to saying, but I was just like mixing it up, right? So really in person is no comparison to the online world. Yes, of course, online it's amazing. I absolutely love it because I get to have clients from Australia and US and Europe, right?
Mm-hmm.
But being in person, right? Being in a container in person really deepens the transformation and the connections that you get to make with the other attendees, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. And yeah, the internet is fantastic. And I do have a 13 moon priestess training initiation that is online. And I've had to do a lot to really support the women in building the sisterhood and the connections. So it can happen. but that's a long dedication,
Yeah.
twice a month, 13 months plus extra stuff and online connection. So it can be done, but it's not the same as when you're really in person and you're dancing together and you're feeling each other's energy and you're hugging each other and you're in frequency harmonic, and then you can create that container where there is a harmonic resonance where you build it into a uniform energetic that truly very rapidly lifts and rises together.
Yeah, I think it's also, yeah, like deep, fast transformation, right? Like
Yes. Yeah.
really, you get yourself kind of like, for me, like retreats are a container, right, for transformation. And it
Yes.
feels really like you get yourself in this vortex where
Yeah.
everyone comes with one intention, right? Like everyone is coming with a similar intention. So you're meeting like-minded people.
Yes. Yeah. And also, there's because it's physical. No, I think either way. I mean, one of my priorities with the work I do is to really witness each sister and to foster containers where we are accepted, loved without condition, and witnessed without judgment or advice. And of course, in a physical container, it's easier, especially if you have a team support, et cetera, to really hold that field because you're all there together. So you're feeling each other's different energetics. You're witnessing each other's beauty as we come together with our beautiful clothes or our practical clothes, depending on what we're doing, right? Our dance, our voices, the way we hold our bodies, and our capacity to hold for each other, which to me is a crucial element of our ascension and spiritual awakening on the planet at this time.
Yes, no, I totally agree. And I have to say, like, you've been doing this for like such a long time, right? And just even like thinking like, okay, when you start your business before the internet, right? Like before online courses were a thing, is so important because you really get to see the difference between one another. And it doesn't mean online courses are, there's nothing wrong with it, right? And I actually love retreats where there's an integration process afterwards that can be held online. So you deepen the practice, right? You really
Yes.
integrate it into your day-to-day life.
Yes. In fact, my retreats include 2 pre-retreat and 1 post-retreat online gathering so that we can get some of the meet and greets already underway, start to build the energetic container, setting our intentions, a little bit of ceremonial energy, the practicals, of course, and then the post-retreat integration. So that is a super value add that we didn't have back in the day before the internet.
Yes, of course. And like I have I always remember this example. I remember this retreat where like it was all vegan, detox, super healthy. And by the end of the retreat, like before people stepped out of the door, they were thinking, okay, so where do we go grab a burger? Right? So it just shows how, like, if you don't have an integration process into like how do you become more aware of like being more healthy in your day-to-day lifestyle. Yes, you can come and have some transformation inside of the retreat, but then later on you'll just have to be like, oh, I need to go to another retreat now because now I need to detox again because you're not making it sustainable in your life.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I don't do retreats that are based on diet, but I think the analogy is excellent of it. Anyone can fast, but it takes a level of discipline and deep self-awareness to break your fast correctly. So I think it's the same thing it takes a level of self-awareness, commitment, accountability, and care to step back into the world in a more conscious way. Now, hopefully, if the retreat leader has done a good job and the attendee is really present, they're going to want to, make that effort. However, let's face it, if we have very deeply, what you call 3D jobs, or we're going back into a lot of heavy responsibility or whatever, it just makes it that much more challenging. So this is where that post-retreat integration support can really come in handy. And also even addressing it near the end of the retreat. I've had that before too, where women have asked, all right, this has been an extraordinary elevation, and some of us are going back into real dense stuff. So what guidance, what can we activate here at the end of our retreat to really support us in stepping back out into the world. And one of those things really is, at least in the nature of the work I do, is we come together to lift and rise and empower ourselves and serve Gaia, not so that we can stay isolated like in the priestess temples of old, but because we are needed in all of these dense, dark places of whether it's corporate America, our family, our neighborhood, or whatever. So the point is to prepare to go back out into the world, not to, even though we use the word retreat, it's actually, I mean, restore and supercharge and activate might be better words than retreat, at least with the nature of what I do.
Yeah, no, and I hear you. Like one of my like clients, Jenny, for example, she's like, I don't call my retreats. I call them experiences because she's like, a retreat has a connotation that you're retreating from life. She's like, my retreats are actually not about you retreating. It's about experiencing life in a different way. So then you can come and incorporate that into your day-to-day lifestyle, right? And she's like, I want people to understand that this is not a place where you're going to come and, close off and that's it. It's about like, how do I experience life? Right. And I think that's so powerful.
I totally relate to that. Sometimes I call my gatherings convergences. Like I have an upcoming one in Thailand in February. That's Ascension Convergence. And then I say Women's Planetary Medicine Retreat. So there is a focus on planetary medicine, but then we have pilgrimages. I've got a pilgrimage in Egypt coming up. So yeah, I think retreat gives it the information so people know what it is, because that's the descriptor, and that makes sense. And there are some retreats that are designed for people who really need deep restoration, healing, and renewal. And those are super important. And then there are those that are something else, that are preparing the way for us to step in the world at the next level.
Yes, I love what you're saying. And actually, I want to back this up a little bit with some numbers. So I run a lot of research, and the World Wellness Organization runs a lot of research in wellness travel. And really it shows that only 11% out of the whole wellness travel market is focused on them wanting to go just on a full-on retreat where they don't leave the house. Think about it in the space of like a silent retreat, right? Really going inwards. The remaining 89% is people who want to integrate wellness and well-being and changing their lives into their current lifestyle. It's not just like they want to go to Italy or they want to go to Egypt, but they do want to see the pyramids while they're there. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
They do want to go experience the food. They want to be part of that energy, of that culture, of that place, instead of just going into a house where you don't leave, right? So I think this is something that we need to also consider when you're creating and crafting or designing your retreat, because sometimes we're like, no, it should always be a retreat. We're inside, no outside energies, but what does your ideal client really need?
Right. And the balance between, this is something I've played with over a number of years now with my events, retreats, is the integration of and the balance of excursions with work, because of the nature of what I do, which is really planetary service, interdimensional spiritual meditation, skill set development, spiritual tools, that kind of thing. And I have to determine, like I've done different kinds of excursions, and I have reduced them a lot because it becomes a logistical complexity. So that's where, that's where I think we have to figure out what works for us, and also the location where we are, because some retreat locations, like Bali, has a lot of great retreat centers that are custom designed for that. I had a brilliant experience in northern Bali in June this year, where they support you in developing excursions. But then other times that you don't have that. So you, as a facilitator, you have to decide what you want to do and what kind of support team you have too. And knowing what your abilities are and what they are not, so that you're sure you can handle that. So yeah, but a place like Egypt, of course, if you're going, I'm about to co-lead a retreat in Egypt, and of course that is a pilgrimage, because you don't go to Egypt to just stay in a little resort somewhere. It's too extraordinary. But we have a team helping us to facilitate, who are on the ground in Egypt, to coordinate, to herd the cats, basically, to get
Yeah.
us to and from sites and organize our food and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I have to say, I've run events in Egypt in the past. Like I run a dinner in front of the Giza pyramids and a dinner with a Michelin star chef in the in the Ritz-Carlton in front of the Nile River, right? I
Nice.
always had people supporting me on the ground in
Yeah.
Egypt because it's a hectic place. Like for any of you who are listening to this and you're thinking about doing something in Egypt, just don't go try and do it on your own.
No,
Like there's certain countries where you can do that and it's okay. Egypt is one of not of those.
not
Like
one of those. Yeah. Yeah.
even like getting the photographer can be a pain in the butt. Like I'm just gonna say it. Like the country has so many complexities in different places that you want to make sure that you have people who know what you're doing. Like even like thinking about like when you're like you could be like, oh, I'm gonna host a retreat in Egypt and I'm gonna take people into the pyramid and it's easy, right? I have a band and I'll go there and I'll just enter, but you're not expecting to have all these people beforehand and being like, no, 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 you have to park here, like that's like miles away from the pyramids and you have to pay, I don't know, like an entrance fee here and then you get into the front and then you actually have to pay another entrance fee.
All those little things. Yeah. Yeah. All of that stuff is covered for us. And I know that's how most people do that type of retreat. And I think from what I am aware of in my limited experience of locations, I've been in several countries, but that might be the most complex place because it's, the sites and the cost and the security and all of that stuff.
Yeah, like yeah, like I run events in like Middle East and Africa and definitely Egypt was the hardest for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we did events in Nigeria, right? So like
Wow, amazing.
yeah.
Wow.
So that one has its own complexity because you cannot leave that place, for example, you cannot leave the hotel. Like
Wow.
like it's a war zone. Like
Yeah.
and like people will pick you up at the airport with guns to make
Wow.
sure they
Fascinating. What a fascinating choice you've made. That's a whole nother conversation. Like probably on your podcast, you tell why. How interesting. Because I'm mostly called to Southeast Asia. That's my main place, Bali, Thailand. Perhaps elsewhere, but those are the easiest ones to host retreats. And here in the United States, in the American West. But yeah, wow, Nigeria, interesting.
yeah. So this was more like an event and it was a little bit different, but yeah, definitely. And it was for like people who expats living in Nigeria. So it was like it's a like I just have to say
You're
for
already there.
everyone listening to this, like if you try to convince people to go to Nigeria with you on a retreat, it's gonna be a hard sale.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's a different market. It's like you're looking for an eternal market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And ideally you can do that whenever you're in another country, but it really just depends on your contacts there, your network there.
Exactly. So, like, tell us, Dawn, a little bit about like now that you've done all these retreats in different parts of the world, and you already gave us so much information. But like, what are the things like you would like tell people like who want to host retreats to like keep an eye on, or like something that you learned along the way that you're like, oh, I wish someone told me about this before it happened.
Yeah. Oh, there are a number of things. I would say the first one is have an assistant.
Hmm.
Because stuff comes up for your attendees. So have an assistant on the ground at least, and certainly if you can have an assistant anyway. If you're running a business, you probably already have a virtual assistant. But when stuff comes up on the ground and you are holding the space, especially for someone, if you're a spiritual teacher, a channeler, or anything like that, you want to be in that energetic field of I'm in receptivity, I'm in oracular state, I'm in the peace and grace of that light field. You don't want to have to be going, oh, this person doesn't like that room, that faucet is leaking, and oh, we've got a toilet problem. No, no. Or, oh, a misunderstanding about dietary needs. And that's another one, get dietary needs cleared beforehand so that you're sure that that's cared for. So that would be for sure have an assistant on the ground, and they just create a little bit of a velvet rope for you. It's not that you don't want to be accessible. Like those who've been to my retreats know I do small retreats. I do anywhere from 7 to 14 women.
Yeah.
I'm very accessible. I'm not like, it's not like me and 500 people and you can't get near me. I'm very accessible. However, the downside of that is people will ask, well, what time are the cars leaving to take us to the airport? It's like, ask my assistant about that. I might have it in my head, and I can handle it, but it takes me out of the energetic of just holding and being present. So I hope that makes sense. That to me is one of the biggest things.
I think
And
this is so
yeah,
important. Sorry, like let me just
yeah,
say
let's
something on this,
dial
like
that.
to dial it up. Yeah, exactly. So I think like really having a support system when you're hosting the retreat is crucial, because you want to be focusing on your gifts. You don't want to be focusing on the operational logistical piece of
Yeah.
the retreat. Like you don't want to be the one answering the messages like the driver is lost. Where do I go? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
why would you put yourself in a situation where instead of using your gifts and really creating and helping people gain transformation, you're doing the nitty gritty? And so many times people are just like, oh, I'm going to save myself $1,000 or $2,000, whatever, not having an assistant. But what is the cost?
Yeah.
You don't.
Right, right. And the other thing, I mean, for me, the women that I've had be my assistants have already invested in training with me. They already know my work, my material, and we have a resonance connection. So I don't just pick random people. Like, in fact, I had someone recently ask me if I did work exchange on my retreats, and I don't, because while I do want to have profitable retreats, I still charge quite a reasonable amount. So I've got to pay for their room. So the person who that I'm going to pay for is the one who is up to speed with my work and has that capacity to handle the logistical part too. A little bit of Virgoan energy in there,
Yeah.
and personableness with the other attendees to really feel what their needs are if there's a concern or an issue or something.
I think this is something that you're bringing up that is so important, Dawn. Like so many people are out there looking for work exchange, right? They're like, I go to the retreat for free, and then I do a couple of things here and there, and I help a little bit, and I get to do the experience, right? And as much as it can work for some people, like me personally, I ran a private retreat for Joe Dispenza a couple of years ago, and I have to say, like, I wanted to, like, I hired a few people, but then, like, some of the other organizers are like, no, 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 we should have volunteers. And I'm like, I don't like volunteers. And they're like, but why? And we ended up having volunteers. And I was like, never again, please. Like it's now a hard limit. And there's nothing against volunteers, right? But they're not highly invested in what they're doing.
Yes. Yes. They're non-highly vested in what they're doing. Exactly. Yeah. Years ago, I used to run a martial arts gym with my ex-husband, and we would do fundraisers where we would raise money for the kids program so that parents who had, financial strain could get their kids to come for free. Or for a discounted price. And, the kids whose parents rarely took them to class, the ones who got it for free.
Yeah.
So that was a big lesson for me. And I think, festivals that it depends on the structure. If you have small group retreats where it's, the host is paying for the retreat or the resort, all the food, the transportation, ground transportation, tips, etc. Unless you're really charging an arm and a leg, there's not a lot of budget to start going, yeah, you can come for free and you can come for free.
Right.
Sometimes, like I've had retreat centers before where they'll have the private bungalows or shared bungalows, and then there was it was like a shared bathroom, almost like a dorm. Let's call it a dormitory. And so for that one, there were several women who This was in a developing country, and they were residents of that country. So their revenue was low, their income and their lives was low anyway. That was a place where I was like, this is perfect. They had the option as locals to be able to come and stay in a dorm, and it worked great. But to just give someone like, yeah, you get a shared bungalow for the same amount that someone's paying thousands of dollars for, in the kind of, it depends. If you are Dr. Joe Dispenza and you've got thousands of people, paying that, you can afford it. But if you're just hosting
volunteers in Joe Dispenza retreats pay for their full ticket.
They pay for their food ticket. Okay, that's fair. That's fair, as they should. But there's something at least they're paying for. But still, it's like you said, there's the lack of vested interest. But also, if you're a smaller operation, I mean, Dr. Joe's a superstar. Let's face it, he's brilliant what he does. I've been to his most of his stuff, his events as well. Not back in 2015, 2016, but so it's changed a lot. I know. But the small group operator, you got between 10 and 20 people. Honor yourself and recognize that the best assistant is, at the very least, someone who's highly capable of logistical, or is familiar with your work, respects your work, and is definitely, you vetted them. They are going to be doing what they're assigned to do, and not just kind of flapping around and chatting with the group and not really doing
being a butterfly.
Being a butterfly, exactly. And I've had that experience too. Learning experience. Okay, this is someone I don't really want assisting at my retreats anymore. Love her, but yeah.
She doesn't fit the profile, and that's perfectly fine. Like, there's nothing wrong about that, right? At the end of the day, I will always tell people, like, you need to focus on your retreat business as a business. Not as a freelancer. You're like, if you're hosting retreats, don't see yourself as a freelancer that makes $200 per person per day or whatever. Like, see it as a business. How much do you need to pay yourself for being there to host a retreat?
Yes.
Like, what is the profit that you're leaving on the table by actually being there, right? Like, it's all about like custom, like, benefit, right? Like, you really need to see it in a way. Like, I was on one session the other day, and I told one of my students, like, I'm gonna give you an exercise. It's like, now you have your pricing for your retreat. I want you to go and, like, imagine that you're presenting it to that boss that you had, that was the hardest boss that you ever had, the one that really made your life difficult. And just see, would that person say, yes, your project is a go ahead? Or would they be, it's not, right? The costs are too high, the profit is too low, or whatever that may be. I'm like, but just use that person who was hard as a business person, and imagine what would they say when you present this project.
Yeah, that's a great tip.
Yeah, so for anyone listening here, you can go ahead and do that, right? If you had a boss that was like really nitty-gritty into the details, like, imagine if you were sitting in front of him or her, and really make a difference in that space, and treat your business, like your retreats, as a business, not as a hobby, not as a thing that I add whenever I feel like I want to travel to another part of the world. Because I've seen this a lot, right? People are like, I want to go to Southeast Asia, I'll put on a retreat.
Yeah.
So that will fund my thing. And then I'm like, yes, but also, like, where is the depth of that? How are you thinking about, like, sustainability? Like, I mean, I know you've hosted so many retreats, and there's a reason why you keep doing it, because you make sure they're profitable.
Yep, they're profitable and they're in service. I mean, it is my greatest joy to do that. And for me now, it's really it's like I get the guidance. I do everything by guidance now. So I get the guidance. Oh, retreat in Thailand. Oh, or I was invited to co-lead in Egypt. So, but I had said years ago, if I'm called to Egypt, I'll go. I don't know what that means, but if it happens, I will. And I was, so I did. But I also created a retreat center here at my home. I mean, I don't have sleeping facilities, but there's an Airbnb in the next little village over. I live in the forest. So I have a yurt that is a temple. And that was one of the ways that I sort of resolved my desire to ensure that I had retreats, even in the context of the lockdowns that happened during
Mm,
COVID and all of that. And it's very low overhead for me. Now
mm,
that once I built it and put it all together,
yeah.
it's low overhead for me. So it makes it easier for me to host, especially because I have a lot of women in my community, maybe they're moms or their lifestyle doesn't allow for them to go all the way to Thailand or Egypt or Bali or wherever else I might host in the future. So these retreats fill up really quickly because when I open one up and it's easy to do, there's not a lot of co- complexity. And I have my best friend is also my assistant for that. So she handles all the food, all the logistics, all of that. So that's a unique way that I worked out to kind of optimize my ability to do retreats each year in a wonderful way, without having without feeling like, because sometimes it's too much to travel lots in a year. That's one of the
Yeah.
things for me. It's like this year in particular, it's many different places. And if you love that, that's great. And mostly I do, but I do have a home and a husband. And, sometimes I'm like, okay, this is a little bit too much.
Yeah.
Having my retreat center here at my home ensures that I could have one or two a year, even if I didn't want to go anywhere else.
Right. Yeah, and I think this is so valuable for anyone who's listening in this space that you get to create your business the way that you want it to look like, right?
Yeah.
And this is something that I like try to really bring as a message for anyone who's inside of like my courses or my free classes or anywhere, is that you get to create the vision of the business that you desire, right? And for you, it's having this space behind your house so you can, if one day you decide you don't want to be running retreats in Southeast Asia, you don't have to, because you've created that lifestyle. And so many times out there when people are teaching you how to do retreats, they're like, this is the way. So you have option one is you want to do local retreats, right? Or national day retreats. So you do once per month and you try to fill them up. And that's the way you make your, let's say, 6 figures, not just making an example. Or you run 4 retreats per year outside of the world, you market them, and then you make your six. And I'm like, no, no, no. Like, there are different ways on how
Yeah.
you can build your business that matches who you are, and very, very, very importantly, the capacity that you have for people. So
Yeah.
for you said 7 to 14 people, right? For some
Yep.
people, it will be 4. And for some people, their capacity will be 25. And that's perfect.
Yep. Mm. I also wanted to say that I feel like, and maybe it depends on who you are, but I really feel like at this time on the planet, we're being upgraded in our consciousness to be more in tune with our inner selves, our intuitive selves. And so these old ways of building businesses, whether it's a retreat business or otherwise,
Yeah.
I've invested tons in business coaching back in the day, where there's external frameworks of formula. To me, there's some, you can get some good education and good concepts that way, but they never fully worked for me because I think because of the nature of who I am and what I do. But I think especially now, saying like that example you said, you do 4 retreats a year, you make 6 figures of this much, and you have this many people and blah, blah, blah. That is so inorganic. That is so external. It's exoskeletal. It's externally structured. It's a framework, a concept. It's from here. It's not from the heart. And this is where many of us are being guided right now. So my retreat schedule looks different year to year, the locations, the number I'm offering, because I'm in divine communion
Mm.
with what divine mother, the divine feminine ray of God. How can I serve this year? How am I being called to serve? Right now, my guidance is that I won't be having as many retreats next year. Now, maybe that'll change, but my sense as I feel into it is that this was a big retreat year. Next year, maybe more of a big online course stuff. And that's how I bring my courses through to my online courses as well. Now, I realize not everyone is that way, but I feel like we're all becoming more intuitive, more sensitive, more heart-centered, less brain logic centered, more balanced in that way. And that if you're feeling like you got coaching on how to do, retreat business, rock star 7-figure retreat business, and it's not working for you, just be gentle on yourself. It's probably just not aligned for who you are, or at least who you are at this time.
Yeah, I have to like totally agree. Like for me, the way I like to see it is like our feminine energy is like our creative energy, right? Is the one that has all the ideas, intuition, and that's the one you're in the shower and you're like, oh my gosh, I would love to do this, right?
Yes.
You're
Yep.
driving and you're like, oh my gosh, I had the best idea, right? And then you're like, you're so excited. And then the masculine energy, and that's a lot of the things that happen inside of courses, is the one that helps you take action.
Yep.
It's very, very important. It is important to learn certain systems, right? Like if you want to make sure that like people know that your retreat is happening or people are signing up, there's certain systems that need to take place, right?
Yes,
And it
absolutely.
supports that creative energy. So it becomes a reality and it doesn't stay just in dreamland, right? But also you need to understand that like what a thing might work for someone does not equal it will work for you.
Right.
Because you're unique individuals and the need of your purpose, your why, everything that you're doing is different to the other person. So you cannot expect the same results or to just follow these specific map. Even though, like for me, I do have a framework, right? There's certain things that you need to learn in order to be
Yes.
hosting retreats. Like I would be of disservice if I didn't show you how to price your retreat properly to make the profit that you want to make. Not the
Right.
profit that everyone else wants to make, the one that you want to make from really this divine feeling of like, this is who I am and this is what I like, this is what will allow me to keep doing this in the future, to create a sustainable business, right? So I can keep doing retreats in the future because I really want to be of service, but if I don't make any money, then I'll have to stop, right?
Right. Right. Yeah, I
So
love that. This is a great point because I'm really good at systems. I mean, I'm really good at creating spreadsheets and organizing, and all of that stuff is important. It's it's like that has to be, and you said it, and I'm paraphrasing here, that supports the divine mission, if you will, or your divine guidance or your inspiration, rather than the external structure of here's a formula for your next 6-figure business. Then you're coming at it from mind. And it's got to come from the heart first, the inspiration, that divine download in the car, in the shower, and you get excited and you feel that like the blossoming up of excitement from your heart. And then you get the vision, you know what the themes or the energy or the journey for everyone in attendance is going to be. And then you put in places all that great practical stuff that you coach people on. To me, that's kind of how we would best operate as humans, I think, really. Just follow our hearts first and then do the practical steps, just like you said, to make it so it takes it out of dreamland and into reality.
yeah. And I have like I remember when I took a yoga teacher training, they said, you lead with the heart and then the mind follows.
Yes. Yep.
And and if like when you're doing like, like the sun salutations, it's exactly like that. Like the heart is front and center, and then the mind follows, right? So
Yep.
like I think it's so important. And when we're thinking about how we create more transformation and be of service in the world, how can we allow our hearts to lead? Because honestly, our heart knows better than anyone.
Exactly. Yep. As
Oh
is
my gosh,
proven
no.
by heart math.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yes, I we did some research for that a couple of years ago. We launched a podcast was called Resonance Rising, and it was all about how vibrations can shift who you are and all the research, like scientific research that is happening behind the scenes. It's so interesting.
Yeah, it
Right.
is.
Anyway, I won't get into that. Like it's for another day, for another conversation. Dawn,
Yeah.
this has been absolutely amazing. Is there anything else you want to share with our audience?
Let's see. I mean, probably a lot, but I feel like we
We'll have
touched.
to schedule another one.
Thank you. Well, yeah, this was great. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time, and it's a pleasure to be able to share at least a little bit of insight from my experience with your audience.
Oh yeah, this is great. And please, anyone who wants to go and really reconnect with Gaia and like bring into the divine feminine, and you're feeling maybe you're a little bit disconnected, but you have the tools, and you've been doing the work. I think working with Dawn and going to one of her retreats or her online courses would be the right answer for you. So Dawn, how can people find you if they're like, well, she looks like what I'm looking for in this moment?
Oh, yeah, thank you. There's a number of ways, but really the best way is just to go to my website, which is my name, dawndelvecchio.com. And if you're specifically interested in retreats, you go to the menu bar. There's a place where you can find the current retreats that are on offer and perhaps previous ones as well, just to kind of see what I do. Because I don't know when this will air or when others will listen to it. So I don't want to talk about specifics,
Right. Yeah,
events.
good.
Yeah, and there's a free, you can opt into my email list and you get a free access to a library of free audio trainings and PDFs if you'd like. So that's an option as well.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Dawn. Oh my gosh, everyone who's been listening to this, thank you so much for like listening to this amazing woman here who came and shared all her knowledge with us. And if you like this episode or you find that someone else could really benefit from it, please make sure you share it with everyone else. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. All right.
Thank you, Leni. That was lovely. Thank you very much.
I hope you enjoyed it. We might
I
change
did.
the title of the episode a little bit to just make sure that people understand what it is that it's about. Like, of course, we'll like keep your essence in like the divine feminine piece, but we might change a little bit like in the way so people are like, oh, okay, I know what this is about, and like to get more people listening, basically, in a way.
Sure. Yeah, that's great. Do you have a big following on your podcast?
Yeah, yeah, I think it's around like the 2000. It's not massive, but what I have inside of my podcast is super loyal followers.
That's great. Yeah, that's what counts a lot right now.
Yeah.
These days. And so you lead retreats and you coach people on retreats. That's excellent.
Yeah,
Cool.
right. My main focus is really like helping people create that system that it's their own for their business. Like
Yeah.
that it's really connected with their purpose, with who they are. And it's really like, for me, it's kind of like an energetic imprint of who they are.
Yeah.
Like it's an extension of like their essence and their purpose and like how they want to live their lives, right? If they have kids, how do they want to be like traveling all the time? No, like
Right.
what works really for their space? Are they supposed to like host retreats locally, or maybe they need to do retreats where at the beginning stages they rent like an Airbnb, but it's like a small one where people don't stay there and everyone gets their own accommodation, and just like holding space for them. So then you lower your cost, and if you only get a few people, you're still already hosting your first retreat, right?
Right. Yeah, those workarounds. I know I've spoken with people who are like, oh, well, I have to rent a hotel and then I've got to book X number of rooms and fill them up. I'm like, oh, hell no, you don't have to do that.
Yeah, I'm always like, no, you don't book the place until you have people signing up, in a way. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's certain places, of course, that is not a possibility, but if you like do a proper like marketing campaign and you create a wait list and all these kind of things, you can work it out around, because like a lot of the things is people are like, just afraid like, oh, I'm gonna invest $10,000 and then I don't know if like people will sign up. So you need to test before you even launch it, right? You need to see, do people want to come? Do people understand what this is about, right?
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
bringing
I didn't have a retreat in Thailand for a number of years because I could not find a retreat center that I was happy with. It took me a while to find, and I'm actually, this one, it'll be interesting to see because it's actually a small boutique hotel.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, but the lady was so nice. I stayed there last year. And it's right on the beach, and the private bungalows, the whole thing. So we'll see. But I've usually either done retreat centers or Airbnbs, or of course my place here. But then the sleeping is still an Airbnb. So we'll see. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I think also retreats in boutique hotels can be very nice, especially if you manage to get like a full buyout, or like
Yeah.
it really makes like a lot of sense. Yeah, it's always about thinking outside the box, isn't it?
Right. Yeah. And again, especially with this day and age, because I think the old models, especially there was that push for the whole, what I call the coachy people world.
Mm,
Business coaches teaching you how to be a millionaire business owner with their formulas and
mm.
charging a lot of money. And then you go in and you're like, you can't fit your round peg in their square hole. And I feel like that's shifting now. You're a perfect illustration of that, and many other women I know too, whether they're coaching like the menstrual cycles and the lunar cycles or the cycles of the year or whatever. Yeah, we're really the old paradigms are breaking down because they don't actually work, because none of us are the same.
Yeah, we're not. No, and we're powered by, like I would say, we're powered by our experiences. And I think this is something that is very, very important. Like we need to really own that everything that has happened, it hasn't happened to us, but for us.
Yeah.
We should use that as our fuel to like really like show ourselves out there in, like, let's say in the business world, as unique as we are, without
Yes.
trying to just copy paste everyone else.
Right, totally. Yeah. So, okay, practical thing here. So will the video go up on YouTube, or where does it go, or
So
what
it goes on
can
my
I
podcast,
share?
and then it gets like on my podcast platform, and then from there it gets like fed into like Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and a few others. I don't remember the other ones.
Okay, so you'll send me that so I can share it with my community too?
Yes, you'll get an email, you get some assets to promote it, and
Great.
we're like, I think it's gonna come out in November. So
November,
like,
great.
yeah. So if I remember my calendar correctly, it's like the thing. It might be like the third or last week of November. Like
Okay.
according to what I know. Yeah, we're recording now. Like we're going kind of like very close to the release date. Not super close, but close enough.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Well, it's been really a pleasure to speak with you today and to get to know you a little bit.
Of course. And if you ever come
Mm.
to Mexico, please send me a message.
Okay, will do. Yeah, I haven't been in years. I used to go down to the not Baja, but what's the first state there on the
Los
Sea of,
Cabos?
Sea of Cortez? No, in the Sea of
Yeah,
Cortez.
that's in Los Cabos,
No, on the mainland.
on the mainland.
Um, yeah, I'm forgetting the name of the state. But and I've
That's
been to Los Cabos. I did Dr. Joe's advanced
Hmm.
back in the day before he did week longs, when he was just doing, I think they were 4 days or something. So
Yeah, now they're like massive, 1,500 people. It's a little bit crazy.
no, I've heard it's really quite crazy now. My girlfriend was telling me it's become kind of a pickup scene, and not everyone is taking it as seriously. And
Yeah.
yeah,
No, what I've heard is like actually like, well, it's from like maybe 2 years ago, so it might be outdated, but information. But I had a friend who's a meditation teacher, and like the wife went to one of his retreats, like the 1,500 ones, and she left because she said that like people were like, they've been doing it so many times that they're like kind of like, oh, I know how this is, so they're like drinking ayahuasca before they go down. They're eating mushrooms. They're like smoking weed. So they're like mixing the practice to
why
just
even
like,
go? Yeah,
I have no idea. But yeah,
yeah.
like she left because she was like, people are like freaking high coming into the meeting rooms.
Wow. And the collective is creating a frequency. So that's not very um conscientious toward all your other sisters and brothers who have invested in that training. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
I don't know what's happening now. They were trying to manage it, of course, but with 1,500 people, like
Yeah.
what are like, you know what I mean? Like how can you like track all these people to make sure that they're behaving according to like, you know, being a conscious and aware human.
Right. Yeah. Oh, well.
Yeah, but anyway, if you come back down to Mexico, like please feel free to let me know and we can meet up and catch up. And I would recommend you check out these, like it's a little town. It's 90 minutes from Mexico City. It's called Tepoztlan.
Say again?
Tepoztlan. I'll write it in the chat for you.
Okay. Tepostlan.
So Tepoztlan.
Tepoztlan. Tepoztlan. Yeah, I'd love to do a retreat in Mexico, but I just haven't ever explored it. So this is just a cute for vacation or for holiday?
No, for retreats, I
retreats?
think it's perfect. So it's 90 minutes away from Mexico City. This is where I host most of my retreats. Like I have one starting tomorrow. I have a private retreat starting tomorrow for Day of the Dead, and we're working with with healing your throat chakra for visibility.
Wow.
So like I have one of my clients coming and doing this retreat with me, and like, well, actually a few, like I have a lot of facilitators coming to do this work because it's a very deep process. Like the throat chakra is just, it's so important, but it's like it's deep work, right? Anyway, but it's a town that like from energetically, it's a town made for women, right? Like so.
Wow.
It's like we're like the oldest, like the main line of doulas from Mexico are from. So some of like the biggest doulas in Mexico used to live here, and they like you can still find houses where they do like births inside of the houses from many years ago. And there is a big kind of like Native American and like Mexica mixture there. So there's a lot of like sun dancers. So there's a big community of sun dancers.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really a town that from the pre-Hispanic like era, let's call it like that. It was the town where all the priestesses, like all the princesses used to live in.
Wow.
So there was another, like it's a triangle. There's another town that was used to be where all the warriors were training, and then another one where I think it was like the men who were priests and whatnot, like scholars. And then this one was like for mainly for women. So like it's a place where they say if you come in with like a cup, like a partner, like women get super so empowered that the marriage might really like flourish or what like completely breaks up because women really
can't
like
stand up.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Energetically, it's a very powerful place. So come visit it one day, right?
Oh, thank you
help
for that
around.
tip. Yeah, thank you very much. I'm going to look it up.
Yeah,
Appreciate that.
yeah, and I'll share like some details. But yeah, check it out. It's beautiful. Like it's a magical place, and definitely so many retreats happening here, like in this town, because of just how like because it's surrounded by mountains. So really the process is very deep, but you also feel very healthy.
Yeah.
So check it out and send me an email. Let me know what you thought about it. But I think like for the type of work that you do, it's like perfect.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm going to look into that. I'm going to also look and see if I have any astrolocation lines close to it. So that'll be interesting to see as well.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Dawn. It was so nice to meet you.
Good to meet you. Have a blessed day.
You too. Bye. Wow, what a great episode. If you like our podcast, How to Run Profitable Retreats, leave us a review and share it with a friend.